Hello again. This is Luca Mino. I'm the technical director and audiovisual director, editor and investigative journalist for the TLB, the libertybeacon.com. I have with me my guest this week, Frank Gregory Ford, with his extensive expertise and training after 3 decades in the military. I really don't think his government, our government, would have thought that a man of this stature would have come back around and blew the whistle on everything that our government's doing and has once done. But this seems to be the case. And it's an honor to have you back with us, Greg. And I don't have any notes for this show because I want to make sure that, we get everything out. And you had some important stuff going on about this week and about Trump and all kinds of stuff. So I'm going to say it like you do, wherever you want to start, wherever you think that the public wants to hear first. What's the most important on your mind?
Okay, let me see. All right, over the weekend, I did a little exploration trip to investigate the Phil Marshall and family murder. All right, I had a very good friend from Minnesota with me who's an investigative journalist. And he went there for 2 reasons. One was to actually see the home where the entire family was slaughtered. And 2 is to see my home, which was right across the canyon from the home where they were slaughtered. All right. And what it appears to be now is there was much more to the Phil Marshall story, and which would account for the determination by the team of assassins. And yes, it was a team of assassins. Phil Marshall not only set up the original CIA cocaine shipping route, that CIA as in Cocaine Importation Agency, from Medellin, Colombia, through the Caribbean, via the Bush oil platforms, as in AKA Zapata oil, and where, by the way, I saw a picture of young George W. working on one of those platforms at the K-Cell Bank, and then the cocaine was then shipped to, of course, what was it? It was shipped to Mena, Arkansas, where the Clinton family had just taken over as governor and first lady, and where the illustrious Hillary Clinton, who this moronic nation just about elected president, just about, who is now involved in not only weapons dealing, but she's also involved in drug dealing, as in 10% of the CIA importation amount, and 3 days ago, she was caught on the USS Chelsea smuggling human transportation. Yes, that Hillary Clinton, And of course, this was all done in that rather tear-jerking, misty-eyed Clinton Foundation, for humanitarian causes, great humanitarian causes, Well, these people that were being smuggled, it turns out they were Chinese, Gee, imagine China trying to get rid of some of their people, And I think that your listeners, Luca, should not listen to me. I think that they should go investigate this story. Investigate this story, And I'll give you the first person you should talk to, and that is a person named Russ Tice, T-H-E-I-S, Russ Tice. He caught the Clintons actually allowing Chinese intelligence agents to inject themselves, penetrate the NSA for several reasons, But one was to give the Chinese a great big boost in telemetry for ICBM missile development, And yes, NSA knew all this, but yes, the Clinton, this is Bill, the wild man, Bill, they allowed him to override all those precautions, thus allowing the Chinese all that we know about ICBM missiles. No big deal, right? Well, Russ Tice will tell you different. He was in charge of counterintelligence at NSA. He detected this penetration. And guess who had him, just like yours truly speaking, declared crazy. This is the NSA, declared crazy, and had all his personal belongings thrown out of the NSA headquarters within 2 hours. Okay, and okay, the team that penetrated, the Chinese team that penetrated the NSA, is still there. All right. So give Russ a call. He'd love to hear of the support that he can get now, because it was the Clintons that made sure he was fired. All right. And this story was covered up. But, okay, then on top of that, I got to have the son. He's a good friend now, but the son of one of the accountants of Joseph Marcello. And I say this because now this is the 100th year, 1 century mark of President Kennedy's birthday. All right. And I'm saying this now because this good friend of mine, who is a Nicaraguan, all right, he was the son of one of the accountants of Joseph Marcello, and the father was able to keep, at the time, was able to sit in and organize and pay all the assassins who were involved in the JFK assassination, what groups were involved, and here's what I didn't know, what countries were involved. Okay. Yes, this information's coming out. Okay. Mr. Winston Churchill, not to name any names. Okay. But Winston Churchill of the UK and China and France, they all signed off on the assassination of JFK. All right. And yes, the Bush family was involved, as you might expect. Okay. I mean, what dirty, filthy, criminal, sociopathic act aren't they involved in? Okay. And as somebody this weekend asked me, how could they be so dirty? Well, I say it has to be genetics. It runs in the family. Okay. Samuel Bush, okay, great weapons dealer of World War I. Surprise, his son, was Prescott Bush, probably the greatest war criminal of all time. All right. We're still dealing with the fallout of Prescott Bush. And Prescott Bush was so determined to do what he did, he actually destroyed President Nixon with Watergate. Okay. And to make sure they did a good job, they actually had somebody named Daniel Ellsberg, all right, as the agent provocateur. Daniel Ellsberg. No, he's not the hero as we were all told growing up, okay? Yes, he did divulge what was going on in Vietnam, okay? He had the Pentagon Papers, and surprise, it turns out he was a penetration agent, trained, deep undercover, member of the dark state, what we call the dark state now, all right? And that was Daniel Ellsberg. So it was a busy weekend. But here's something, because it appears our messages are getting out there. They love us in the Ukraine because they're certainly bombarding our station with electronic noise. It appears now that yes, indeed, not only was Mr. Oswald, Lee Harvey Oswald, okay, a CIA trained assassin. Imagine that. Everybody's working for the CIA. Luca, do you know anybody that's not working for the CIA? Okay.
Me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it's beginning to look like. And yes, I've got the names of all the generals that were involved. Okay. Of the Bay of Pigs invasion, what really happened with the Bay of Pigs invasion. Okay. Who was supposed to get the goodies? I don't see any humanitarian causes with the CIA, and when it came to getting Cuba back, okay, all right, it looked more like a kind of a return of good drug growing area, okay, cocaine growing area, which the agency was, of course, well involved in, because we had been thrown out. The agency wasn't able to ship drugs from the Golden Triangle Vietnam, what is it, Laos and Burma, okay, the Golden Triangle. So they were losing one prime drug growing producing area and gaining another, all right? So yes, that came out this weekend. All kinds of documentation too. And yes, Lee Harvey Oswald was a CIA agent, all right? No questions about it. And yes, there were 3 teams of hitters, okay? These were good hitters, well-trained hitters, all right? And so anyway, but I found out something, and this is for all those people that took part in the Phil Marshall assassination. Guess what, folks? The 3 manuscripts that were sent to Bob Graham, Senator Graham, okay, yes, you got those, all right? You had them intercepted. Your agent had them intercepted in the mailroom, okay? And you slaughtered the family to gain access to the number 4, okay, which went to the Saudis. Yes, the Saudis got it. Yes, the Saudis know all about what we know, but you missed number 5 manuscript. Number 5, naming everyone, not just the Saudis, everyone who took money and set the whole thing up, okay? And they were all paid via the Cyprus Express, okay? The good old Cyprus Express, okay? Yes, we had to invade Iraq. Boy, there was a lot of things happening in Iraq that had nothing to do with, gaining freedom for the Iraqi people, all right? It was a very, very interesting weekend. But what happened? What recent event happened with our illustrious president, Donald Snake Oil Trump? Okay. Right. Well, when it appears right before he went to Saudi Arabia to talk about oil, I mean the petrochemical oil, not the snake oil that he's been selling all along. Okay, but the whole situation was something like this. It appears now that he actually blew some intel, okay, opened his big mouth. Gee, imagine Donald Trump opening his big mouth, okay? Obviously, he's not a trained agent, okay? He's what they call a cutout in the business, all right? So he blew an operation, but here's the operation he blew. Nobody's talking about it, folks. He blew an operation where ISIS was going to attack London, specifically Parliament, the Parliament building. Uh-oh, where have you heard this before? Did I not say this, week before last, Luca, on your show? Okay, well, guess who shot his big mouth off, okay, told the Russians, which is okay. The Russians are masters at intrigue and drama and intelligence. And by the way, these were his controllers. Yes, I didn't stutter. These are his controllers, as in Russian-Israeli mob, okay? The syndicate, all right? Good, okay. So, yeah, I knew you would agree.
The puppet masters, the puppet masters, they pull the strings.
Absolutely. Okay, now, what is this about the Russians being accused of manipulating the election in other countries? I'm sorry, gosh, my hypocrisy only extends so far, okay? We're accusing Russia of manipulating the vote? Oh, gee, where we heard that? Okay, Mr. Hanging Chads, George W. Bush, okay? Or do we call him George Hanging Chads Bush? Okay, all right. Let's go revisit the Florida issue when you want to see an election stolen and manipulated, okay? Like I say, my hypocrisy only goes so far, okay? But, oh, by the way, I thought of something, okay? Phil Marshall, Barry Seal, and Jeb Bush. Wasn't Jeb running for president? Well, let me see. The people that he ran, and you can see a big picture of Phil Marshall, Barry Seal, and Jeb Bush leaving the plane after they set up the routes, okay? Now, Phil Marshall was slaughtered, okay? His family was slaughtered. By the way, they were taken down into the basement and tortured first for good measure. The kids were tortured in front of him, okay? And then the kids were killed and he was killed, especially when he told them that he wasn't going to tell them where the last manuscript was, okay? They knew it, and the same team has been sending agents to the house for the last, what, 4 years since Phil was killed? They've been sending agents there looking for that manuscript. Well, you can tell them to knock it off, all right? It's enough, okay? And because I sat right there and figured out where the manuscript was at the lookout site that the coordinator for this assassination team sat on and watched the family, all right? Got it. Sorry, boys, got it. And this copy will make it to Senator Graham, okay? So here's the deal, all right? Is yes, Barry Seal was slaughtered, okay, machine gunned, okay,
Mhm.
and Phil Marshall was slaughtered. The only one who wasn't was Jeb Bush. I wonder why that was, okay. You know, you know, I saw a picture, by the way, of Barry Seal and Phil Marshall and Gregory Chavez, the assassin of Che Guevara, and Porter Goss. Now, what was the former CIA director doing with all this rogues gallery?
Mhm.
Porter Goss, okay. Yeah, okay. So we have a situation here where, jumping forward, let's see, what is our president's name now? Donald Trump, okay. Donald Snake Oil Trump
Mhm.
blows it, tells the Russians, oh yeah, his controllers, here's the deal. There's going to be an ISIS attack in London. Oh, we've got to scramble around and we've got to, set some poor kid up who actually believes in all this stuff, send him to Manchester. When the plane lifts up out of London, okay, out of the airport there at either Gatwick or Heathrow, you can actually see off to the left, you can see Manchester, okay? That's all they did was they sent this kid over to Manchester, okay, and he set off a bomb, okay. That's what that was. That was a make-believe redirection, as they call them in the trades, a redirection. They have not forgotten about London, okay. But here's how this stuff works, okay. Since the Russians have become involved, you're probably going to look at a huge terrorist attack on Moscow, okay, on Moscow. And I had picked up a little warning about Budapest, Hungary, okay, but I don't think it's going to happen. We're talking big potatoes now, and we're going to have another big strike in the U.S., okay. Now, everybody thinks ISIS is just a bad old group, of hotheads running around, smarter than most, albeit better armed than most, better trained than most. Oh, I'm seeing a pattern forming. Okay. A better intelligence than most, better transportation than most, better logistics, better intelligence. Okay. So we have a situation with ISIS. All right. They're not only being beaten down. Okay. Forget it. It's not happening in Mosul. Okay. They're rearming and they're just changing the battleground. Okay. And so what we have is they're moving farther west. They're not in the slightest bit slowed up by our efforts and that worn out Iraq army that we supposedly trained. Okay. Forget it. They're moving west. All right. And they're moving west with all the support of the United States government. Okay. And by the way, one of my broadcasts, I named Joe Lieberman, okay, along with John McCain, Hillary Clinton. Oh, and who's that wimpy, limp-wristed excuse of a politician out of South Carolina, Lindsey Graham? Oh yeah, Lindsey Graham. Okay, they're supporting. They are the main support mechanisms of ISIS. Okay, and the government that is supporting ISIS is the government who stands to make the greatest amount of gains and profit out of having ISIS there is Israel. Okay. There's the Israeli-Russian connection. Okay. We have a situation here, folks, and thank goodness for Donald Trump being where he is because we would not know about it. All right. Your listeners would probably laugh all this stuff off. Oh, just a fantasy. Well, sorry. Okay, ISIS is very serious. They're far from being defeated. They probably never will be defeated. And they are pissed off. They are pissed off Sunnis. Okay, you know what that means? Pissed off Sunnis. It means that the 12 laws of Sharia law, okay, the 12 levels of Sharia law in Saudi Arabia apply to everything that happens to ISIS. Okay, they share the same judges. They have the same structure. They are not going anywhere. Okay, they are here to stay. And by the way, I noticed that Donald Trump didn't say anything about the Saudis funding the 9/11 NYC World WTC attacks. Okay,
That's the first thing that I said to myself when I saw that largest U.S. military deal. I think it's 110 billion now, and then 350 billion over the next 10 years or something, to the Saudis that funded the 9/11 event. So and before we finish with ISIS, I can't say the word ISIS without saying the word low life scum John McCain. I'm sorry, I had to throw that in because he seems to be the father of ISIS. You know, for me, because that's
right.
But anyway,
well, what is ISIS? You know, I'm always confused. Okay, remember, I was confused ever since our government when I filed charges to stop the torture and abuse going on at Abu Ghraib and our other torture sites that we had. I was renditioned. Okay, this might sound familiar now. Renditioned and tortured, just like what they did to John Curacao. Okay, the CIA operative who caught Abu Zubaydah. And oh no, some new news coming out from Abu Zubaydah. Okay, quote the what was it? The supervisor who dreamed up 9/11. Okay, who put it all together. All right. Well, the story now that I'm getting daily is something a whole lot different. Okay, and I think the world ought to be treated to exactly what happened with Abu Zubaydah and 9/11 and who he was working for. Please, Luca, ask your listeners, was there anybody of the 19 hijackers who wasn't a CIA employee? I mean, I'm serious, a CIA employee. And you see their boss, flip on CNN right now. Tell them, flip on CNN, you're going to see their boss, John Brennan. John Brennan, CIA director, who, by the way, expedited, okay, and stamped all the passports from the Jeddah CIA station.
Yes.
Okay, you know, overrode all the safety precautions to get them into the United States.
What wasn't it? There was the Israeli security that was running the airports, the airport security. They were Israelis that were running it. I think there was one or two people from Holland, if I'm not mistaken, or Dutch. Three people that I remember that Christopher Boland talks about that were doing security on 9/11.
Yes.
So this is what's so, you know, I thought about saying this 5 times since we started. I got to say it now. This is what's so good about having you on the show, Greg, because you're such an insider with so much knowledge, and you're not only an insider, but you come from the very thing that you're talking about. You're not just somebody who wrote a few books and who read books like there are behind you. You're the person that actually lived it. So
right.
What we're doing is we're jumping around all over the place, but we can still connect the dots. And I really got to hand it to you because you're really good at doing that. And that's what's so important.
I spent 30 years doing it, so that's okay. If your listeners have a tough time, have them call in and ask me to elaborate. No problem. Okay. Yes, I'm going to pick up a few provocateurs, you know, and a few doubting Thomases, but hey, no problem. I know how to hang up when I get a Cat J or a 5150. Okay, no problem. What the deal is right now is now they are asking John Brennan about possibly something that Donald Trump did wrong. John Brennan, okay, as in the man who made sure we got 9/11 and 3,000 dead in one day. that John Brennan. And what did they do? You know, they made him CIA director. They were so horrified at what he had done, they made him CIA director. And I got to turn on the TV and look at that son of a bitch. All right. You know, I'm sorry. You know, I get a little annoyed here. Okay. And then what happens? Okay, we've got John Brennan who expedited, stamped the visas of the CIA, of the 9/11 hijackers, all 19. Okay, and then expedited their training in Pinal Airport, Arizona. Okay, and then on top of everything else, okay, I turn on yesterday and I see Robert Mueller. Everybody's talking about him like he's something wonderful. Robert Mueller, the lapdog of the Bush family, who actually covered up the 9/11 commission. Okay, that Robert Mueller, okay, who can't do enough to accommodate the Bush crime family,
right,
and the unholy triumvirate. Okay, that Robert Mueller, who's acting like Donald Trump has done something wrong, and he's got to find out about it. Oh my God, that's a pot calling the kettle black. Okay, that's like sending the wolf to guard the sheep. Oh my God, you know, and you know, and with their serious, that's what I like, the serious looks that they all have. They're testifying like they really believe this nonsense that they're perpetrating. Yeah, John Brennan, yeah, he ought to be testifying from Leavenworth, federal prison. All right, okay, he ought to be holding, and this is for a reason I say this. He ought to be holding the daily prayer session for the Muslims in prison, because he is one. All right, he converted when he was in Saudi Arabia running the CIA station. Now that sounds like a tough man to deal with ISIS and Al Qaeda, right? Oh my God. Okay, so yes, we have a situation. Robert Mueller, who is the lapdog of the Bush administration, did everything he could to bamboozle. He and Philip Jellicoe, I hope everybody heard that.
That's the name I was just gonna say his name.
To redirect, the entire investigation, okay, who done his best to penetrate the 9/11 truth movement, all right? Yes, that man. And by the way, it took a while, but now those 28 pages are declassified, showing that the Saudis were entirely responsible. Yes, the Saudis whose butts we're kissing right now, so they can come over and kill some more of our people. Okay. Oh, gee. Well, I just don't know how world politics works, Luca. If you ask these people, I'm just angry because I was renditioned and tortured. Okay, trying to stop war crimes. Okay, and then, what's this now, Luca? Explain this to me. Okay, we've talked about two legs of the unholy triumvirate here. Okay, now Mueller and Brennan. What is this about Joe Lieberman taking over the FBI? Well, I hope they give him the boot, because if somebody doesn't blow the whistle on him, I will.
Please
all
do.
Right? I will. All right. The internet.
But tell me more about, before we hit the internet, you keep, I think it was probably me that interrupted you when you were talking about Trump and his visit to Saudi Arabia. Do you want to add something on that?
Oh, okay. Well, I'd like to see the flight log of that plane. Okay, that is supposedly taking the President Air Force One. Okay, and taking him around. What states he's broadcasting from. I'm beginning to feel, and I have the pretty good evidence of a, mission accomplished type of flight. Okay, remember with George W. Bush? Oh yeah, flying into harm's way. Supposedly the Bush team said he flew his own jet fighter onto the deck of that aircraft carrier.
Right.
Oh please, gag, please. Oh, cut it out. Cut it out. I mean, yeah. Gee, so that means that he got his flight status back when it was taken away from the Champaign National Guard in Texas. Okay, yeah, he because they kept hearing a strange sound in the cockpit when the air control. Yes, right, that's the one. And of course, the Bush family had to pay the doctor to lose his positive cocaine, opioid tests. Okay. George. And then and then to show you what kind of guy he is, a real war hero, right? Real war hero. Okay, he pops the canopy, gets out and walks off, leaves the plane there, still running. Okay, and skidded off onto the medium. All right. Okay, yeah, that's what kind of guy he is. And surprise, he was the first person ever to be booted out of the Champaign National Guard in Texas because he was such a clown. He's always been a clown. All right. So that's the deal. But yeah, at least dear old dad, when he bailed out and turned treasonous on the United States, at least he did it with a little style and panache. Okay. Because he cuts and runs from his squadron, okay, over that island in the South Pacific, cuts and runs, and then leaves his crewmen to drown, that torpedo bomber. They drowned it. Two of them drowned, okay, in that torpedo bomber. Okay, great. Gee, wonderful. And what I would like to know is there was a movie tone camera crew filming the whole episode from a submarine that just somehow managed to be there. That was on the father, George H.W. Okay. I mean, I learned a little bit about the mob scene, the organized crime scene this last weekend by hearing, first of all, that, and it startled me, I'm really shocked at hearing this, is Hillary Clinton was part of the Bonanno family, okay? The mob, Bonanno mob. But hey, and Bill is too, okay?
Right.
And then I heard that LBJ was part of the Lyndon Baines Johnson, okay, the president that gained the most when Kennedy was shot in the head, okay. Well, I heard he was part of the Carlos Marcello syndicate, okay. Carlos Marcello, Southeastern mob. Everything happened in New Orleans, okay. A cesspool, a snake pit. That's where it all happened, all right. But yes, he was tipped up with Carlos Marcello, LBJ was. And then here's Hillary Clinton, okay, the first female Bilderberger. Is anybody out there? Is anybody even listening to any of this stuff? How many millions of idiots and half-wits and decerebrated morons voted for this, this organized crime syndicate figurehead? Okay. Yeah, millions from what I understand. Okay. Now, no wonder she feels that she can run weapons all over the world, sell Stinger missiles. Okay, 400 Stinger missiles missing now. Okay,
thank you, Benghazi.
Sell cocaine. Hell, her husband, yeah, he never inhaled. He never inhaled. All right, yeah. Why should he when he gets the best coke in town, the best coke in Arkansas, free? Okay, or was it 6 or was that 7 times he had to go through rehab for opioid addiction? Okay, I'm confused on all of this. I'm just confused. Okay, Joe Lieberman, and everybody better pay attention, because whiny Joe Lieberman and his wife Haditha, you ever hear him? He sounds like a whiny old bitch. Okay, carrying on about, excuse me, about what does he say? How does he feel about Israel? Now, doesn't he have a dual citizenship?
They all have to, don't they?
I think that's required, isn't it? An Israeli citizenship. Okay. I'd like to thank my wife Haditha. Oh yeah, and then turn right around, sponsoring all legislation to be able to shut down the internet on command when Israel doesn't like what somebody says about Israel. Okay. You don't think so? Check it out, folks. Don't believe me. Remember, I'm just a crazy. According to the government, I'm a crazy who imagined torture and abuse going on the industrial basis. Okay. And my team was part of it. I always admit that. My team was part of it, and I should have moved when I should have sooner. Okay. That it was my team at Abu Ghraib, and the government says I imagine. I'm delusional. I imagine the whole thing going on at Abu Ghraib. Okay. Well, surprise, folks. Okay, when it comes right down to it. Okay, Mr. Lieberman. Okay, Mr. Brennan. Mr. Mueller, guess what? They have Donald Trump in their sights. Not that Donald Trump's a wonderful guy that should be saved. It's the fact that Donald Trump managed to prevail with the assistance of the Russian-Israeli syndicate.
Mhm.
Okay. Yes. And who are the members of the syndicate? You don't get into the syndicate unless you're former intelligence officer for the Russians or the Israelis. Okay. Guess what? Yes, they did compromise our government. They compromised our system, but that's not the first time.
Mhm.
All right. And one factor that's getting away from all of us in here is looking at this last week and a half, 2 weeks, is this. Where do the Chinese fit in? When I started talking earlier, I said, yes, the Chinese have penetrated our system. Guess who allowed them to penetrate our system? It isn't Hillary Clinton and Bill, the wild man, okay, to get in and compromise our system. It's the Chinese. The Chinese paid the Clintons, okay? Who is behind the Bushes? Not the Russians, okay? They don't like people that can stand up to them or as smart, if not smarter, okay? No, it's the Chinese. Remember when Poppy Bush, that great statesman, okay, that we all know and love dearly,
Mhm.
remember, okay, he did a term as CIA director, and then he went to China for a year as ambassador.
Mhm.
Uh-oh, gosh, who got their hooks in who? Who's running who? Who knows how to spell treason here? Okay, guess what? It's the Chinese, folks. All right, that's what's going on here. That's where we're seeing the best, what's the word? A treasonous penetration operation of all time. Okay. Yes, it's the Chinese. And which, by the way, leads me to something I just heard. I couldn't believe it when I just heard this.
Okay.
Speaking of China, okay, speaking of China, we have a situation here in North Korea. Kim Jong Un, okay, I can never remember any of those names, okay,
Mhm.
but Kim Jong Un, the illustrious murderer of his father on that train, nobody knows that, by the way,
You want to say that
you,
again? Say that again.
except for you and your listeners, Luca. Kim Jong Un killed his father, murdered his father. You know, that's the Stalinist way of doing things. Murdered his father on the train. Okay, that was quite a train ride they all took. All right, and Kim Jong Un now, okay, remember? Oh, a few years back, not that many. Kim Jong Un said, "Yeah, he wants to work with us. He wants to be a good guy. He just needs some technical support from the United States." Okay,
Mhm.
here's where it gets really dodgy right now, folks. Like right to this minute, I'm telling you this. Is it appears now that we have American hostages in North Korea. Did everybody hear that, Luca? Yes, we have American hostages in North Korea. Several American hostages and their military hostages in North Korea.
Mm.
Okay. Gee, where have we heard this before? Like the Manchurian Candidate?
Mm.
Okay. Where does everybody think the Manchurian Candidate came from? North Korea, folks. All right. North Korea. And guess who accommodated the abduction of these 5 colonels? Okay, U.S. colonels. It was Mr. Obama. Okay, yes, President Obama. Now there's a Manchurian Candidate for you. Yes, Obama accommodated that abduction of these 5 colonels. Now these 5 colonels aren't doing very well, and I hope Mr. Trump has the wherewithal, the spine, the guts, the chutzpah to deal with this situation. Okay? Yeah, we have 5 devoted American colonels, soldiers that were abducted with the help of Mr. Obama, and they were sent to North Korea, and where they are being kept because they're all experts and everything from missile, rocket, okay, deployment and trajectories to ballistics. Okay, I see a pattern developing here.
Mm-hmm.
Electronics, military logistics, they're all experts in certain areas. Okay, yes, this was a deal to keep things quiet, okay, keep things quiet with the US till they got what they needed, the technology that they needed. So we have a situation here where we have a goofball president. Okay, he is a goofball. There's no questions about it. Okay, but the thing is, he is the president. And until the Bush family gives another command to remove this president, like they did President Nixon, like the Watergate scandal. Okay, we have this president, and believe it or not, he's probably the better of the two, with Hillary, that idiot Hillary Clinton, that sociopath Hillary Clinton, all right, that viper Hillary Clinton, okay, yes, he's probably the least dangerous. So what we need to do now is face the facts that, yes, our president is attempting to make the oil deal, cut the oil pipeline with Russia, and if you don't think so, look at a map. I challenge anybody, look at a map to find out where North Korea is and find out where Russia is, okay? So we need to run that. Now, Bush needs to run, excuse me, Trump needs to run that pipeline with Vladimir Putin, okay? From the Pryoshka Basin, Siberia, okay? He needs to run that pipeline across the ocean, okay? The very cold Bering Sea, and then down the coast to Seattle. Okay, yes, like the wall. Remember what Trump said? Mexico is going to pay. Excuse me. Mexico is going to pay. Mexico is going to pay for the wall. Guess what, folks? You're getting stuck again. You know, here's the thing about our presidents. You might as well, the American people ought to bend over like you're in the shower in prison and grab your ankles, okay? Because that's how, you know, that's how much control we have over this process. All right. How many trillions of dollars have gone missing? Do you see anybody looking for it? No, because let's face it, we had to pay all those crooks and cronies to cover up 9/11. Mm-hmm. We had to pay the premier of the British Prime Minister, excuse me, the British Prime Minister, Tony Blair. We had to pay him to cover up all the issues of Iraq. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes, he's a billionaire now. How do you think he got to become a billionaire? And we had to send it through Iraq to transport money, okay, to Cyprus to hide in these secret bank accounts. Okay. All right. That's what we had to do. All right. That's where all that money went. And $9 billion at the beginning of this. What is it? At the beginning of this election, $9 trillion. I'm sorry, I said billion. I get confused between billion and trillion. Okay. I can't comprehend a billion, but I definitely can't comprehend a trillion. Well, surprise, 9 trillion went missing. All right. And the 9 trillion, okay, is going to pay for that oil pipeline, okay, running all the way from Pryoshka Basin, Siberia, very cold, okay, to Seattle, all right? Seattle, and that's going to be the great petroleum center and resource of the Western Hemisphere. It is no longer going to be the Middle East, okay? All right? That's, even though there's plenty of oil there, there's much more oil in Iraq than the Saudis ever thought about having, okay? But funny thing was, we had a war that gained control of it, okay? But the war kept going on. We had control of because of our CIA employee, Iraq, Saddam Hussein, okay? We had control of that oil. But now we've got the Russian-Israeli mob directing on where our resources are coming from and going to, okay? So that's what's going on with Donald Trump.
There's something about Saudi Arabia too. Saudi Arabia is now the 100% owner of it's an oil refinery in Texas now.
Of course.
That was in the works last year. It just happened. Uh,
Oh, gee, so, in Texas. Okay,
hmm.
gee, that's amazing. As in
Can you
Prince
say
Bandar Bush,
Bush? Yeah.
Bandar Bush, who paid for the entire attack on
Hmm.
the United States and slaughtered 3,000 people. Okay, best friend to George W. Bush, and was the other person sitting on the White House veranda, congratulating each other, smoking cigars on the 9/11 attack and how successful it was. Okay, gosh, all
Hmm.
right, gee, that's touching. I'm deeply touched by all that. All right, get that out there. Okay, I know we'll probably Luca will probably have more electronic attempts at interference with our show, but
Hmm.
it needs to be gotten out there. Okay, so what we have now is a situation where yes, ISIS is coming back because Donald Trump is in trouble. Okay, that's why ISIS is beginning to do what they're doing. Donald Trump is in trouble. Okay, and it's not going to take long before that path is traced right back to where it started from, and that's Saudi Arabia. Okay, so that's why you're going to have more attacks coming up very shortly. As I said, what, 2 weeks ago on your show? Yes, we're going to have an attack in the UK. All right. I thought it was going to be London, but no, Donald Trump took care of that for me when he ran his big mouth off to the Russian sources. Okay. That's what he said. All right. He said, yes, there's going to be an ISIS attack in the UK. All right. Oh, well, they threatened the Israelis. The Israelis are running ISIS. Nothing happens with ISIS, okay, that the Israelis don't dictate.
Hmm.
Period. Have you seen a single attack on Israel this whole time?
No.
No. Gosh.
But there's even something about the date that's Masonic in nature, the 22. If you
Oh
notice,
God.
a lot of the attacks are on the 22nd of, the 22nd of, the 22nd of, the
Right.
22nd. There's a list at least of 10 or 15 of them of the attacks
Okay.
that were on the 22nd day of whatever month, whatever year. So
Boy. Okay. Well, that's pretty good organizing. So much for these being wild-eyed crazies. Okay, who are lone wolves who just attack with no provocation at any given time.
hmm.
I don't think so. I don't think that's the case. I don't think you do either, Luca. All right.
They know
These
exactly
folks,
what they're doing.
yeah, absolutely. This is specifically an organization and that is being first of all administered by the very best. Okay, the Israelis are the very best at doing what they're doing. Okay, yes, ISIS stands for Israeli Secret Intelligence Service.
There it
Okay,
is.
it doesn't stand for some Iraqi, Syria,
Mhm.
something.
Mhm.
Forget it. It stands for,
Islamic, right.
yeah, right. Islamic State, whatever.
Mhm.
Okay, it doesn't stand for that. Yes, it stands for the Sunni directed organization, which the U.S. helped to build entirely. Okay, when I saw an Apache helicopter providing air support for an ISIS truck column, okay, all right, who has the logistic capability to support an Apache helicopter?
I have a picture of that. I have a picture of the Toyota trucks.
Yes,
Right.
and it actually lands. It actually lands. Guess what? Okay, the operational capability only belonged to two countries, Israel and the U.S. All right,
Mhm.
Israel and the U.S. Okay, and so what we have here, okay, is a situation where yes, an American-made Apache helicopter, which is part of the mainstay of the what is it, low ground support uh, air column of the Israeli
Mhm.
army. All right, is there, and what happened 3 weeks later? An Israeli general was caught by the Jordanians leading an ISIS team. Okay, actually he was a colonel, and then the Israelis promoted him while he was in captivity. Okay, I guess that's what you have to do to get promoted. All right, and then right before that, an American general. Okay, retired. I felt better when I found out he was retired,
Mhm.
not doing this on active duty. Okay, was leading a group of ISIS. Okay, so what we have here is a situation where the elected president now, you notice how quiet he's gone about ISIS? Okay, because they got him and pulled him aside and said, listen, you halfwit, all right, ISIS is ours. Okay, do you understand that? All right, that's what we're not going to tell the American people. Yes, that we've been supporting this bloodthirsty group that we created by our torture and mayhem. Okay, that Dr. Ford, Gregory Ford, actually was in Iraq and tried to stop the torture and mayhem that this was causing. And guess what? We renditioned him first. And by the way, yes, I did brief the FBI when all this came out. Everybody's saying, well, if I knew all this, why didn't I tell the proper authorities? I just love that one, the proper authorities. Well, I did, folks. By the way, when I got back after being renditioned and I could walk again and talk again, okay, I went directly to the FBI. Everything I know, James Comey knows. Uh-oh, that James Comey? Yes, that James Comey. And one of the things that he briefed Donald Trump on was me, your humble civil servant, Gregory Ford. Okay, yes, because funny thing was everything I said was investigated and I reported on was investigated by the FBI. A report was made every single evening at the end of my briefing of each day and sent to James Comey, and they investigated everything I stated and found it to be 100% correct. And that statement right there, Luca, for your listeners, is now before the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is reading that exact statement, okay, about Mr. James Comey and about this issue, okay? So when I say, yeah, we're going to have terrorist attacks, your listeners better listen up, all right? Yes, and Moscow, you better pay attention, Moscow, because you're probably on the list next, all right, for very strange reasons, as in the Secret Intelligence Service of the KGB / FSB, okay, did the same thing when Chechen Islamic terrorists were causing trouble in the Soviet Union. And surprise, the whole building started collapsing in Russia, all right? Guess what? The FSB, okay? And there's two groups that you pay attention to in Russia, intelligence groups. The FSB, the former KGB, and the SVR, the former GRU. And I've worked with both of them. During my assignments, I've worked with both of those groups, okay? Wow. And believe me, they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing, and they've known what they're doing for seven decades. They have refined the process, and they've been extremely successful in many ways. They know what they're doing. We can't go toe-to-toe with them because Russia knows more about Americans than Americans know about themselves, all right? When I had an intelligence officer sit down next to me, and I was having problems with one of our database systems, he said, oh, here, let me help. And he was able to help me on my system, okay? That's how much they don't know about our systems, okay? Right. And they understand Americans much better than we understand them, okay? So yes, Mr. Putin is one of the best. I've known who Mr. Putin was for probably going on 30 some odd years now, all right? Yes, Mr. Putin was a young KGB officer when I was first shown a undercover video of him. And yes, he was designated as a top dog then, okay, who knew what he was doing, okay? And during that period of time, that was when, who was it? Chernyenko, okay, and Brezhnev, okay, the two Soviet premiers. First, it was Brezhnev. Brezhnev died, and then Chernyenko, he died a couple months later. And then there was Andropov, another KGB general, and he died a couple months later. That's the problem about being a premier in Russia, is very seldom do you live longer than 6 months after you get the job.
They drop like flies. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Even Gorbachev, okay? That's why they put him in, because they got tired of having funerals in the Soviet Union, okay? There's a term that when you're a premier, you're put on a conveyor. You don't have a funeral. They put you on a conveyor and you're fed into a blast furnace, okay? All right? So I guess that's the economy Soviet, style of funeral, okay? So, but that's the thing is, back then, the man we have now, okay, he was put there by design. Okay, they don't do anything in a shabby, chic sort of way like
No.
we do. Okay, so that's why we have to pay attention now. Is because they are so far embedded into our system that I doubt if we can pull out of it. I don't think just now the FBI is becoming aware of the threat. Okay, it's our own people that are more of a threat to this country right now than the Russia ever thought about being. Okay, Russia's laughing down their sleeves at us. The Chinese are getting a real hoot on, okay, at America. And it's our own sleazy, lying, thieving, sociopathic politicians that have put us into this position.
And by the way, that cough that you're listening to and that you're going to hear on every show is Gregory's, how can I say that? His devotion to his country, thinking he was doing the right thing to begin with. It's living proof of the toxicity of war and how it destroys. We have a few minutes left, Greg.
Yes.
I just, before you give us the last word, I just wanted to thank you for everything, and I can't tell you enough what an honor it is to be on shows like that with you. It's a culmination of probably 30 years of work for me, and I started to be in horror when I started this journey by watching what we did to the American Indian, and it's exactly the same thing now as it was before. They didn't care now. They didn't care then. They don't care now. They never have. So I always say we're the Indians of the 21st century, because that's basically what it is. We're just chattel.
But if you want to hear something funny, okay, I'm a member of the largest mixed minority in America. That mixed minority is the Cherokee Indian and the Scotsman. Yes, those Scotsmen, okay? And that is the largest mixed minority, the Scotsman and the Cherokee. Well, funny thing is, I'm listed as a mixed minority or minority with the U.S. government. That was the first thing they did, was checked on my birth certificate to find out if my parents were really, okay, Native American. All right. Yeah, that seems to be a dirty word still in the American government.
Yes.
Okay, is mixed minority. And as a final last political statement, I'd like to make this is the bumper sticker on the back of my vehicle. It says, okay, and I want everybody to listen up. Yes, illegal aliens have always been a problem in America. Just ask any Native American.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
Do I need to explain that?
Oh, by the way, the real word is not Cherokee. It's Tsalagi.
Yes.
I want people to know that, because that's really important. The word Cherokee is a slang European way, because the Europeans couldn't say Tsalagi. So they ended up using Cherokee. For some reason, it became that. And of course, there's so many Cherokees that are saying, no, that's not true. Well, for your information, the Tsalagi lived in the Carolinas, and they had foreknowledge of the Trail of Tears coming, so they went down and incorporated in Texas. They're called the Tsalagi Nudogi, which means the Tsalagi tribe of Texas, 1819. So.
Yes, and that's where my grandmother, who came from Scotland, got on her bottom mule, okay, sailed over to North Carolina, bought a mule, and rode west to the Rosebud Reservation in Oklahoma, and the few brass farthings that she had left from Scotland, okay, she bought cut boards, and I'm sure if anybody from the Cherokee are listening right now, okay, they will tell you that the schoolhouse is still there where she built it. It's kept as a national monument. It's right there on Rosebud, and she taught there for the rest of her days, taught Native American children, okay, gave them an education, and she's revered as a saint, all right?
Cool.
So, and of course, that one is one of the first things that the American government attacked about me, is my background and my history, all right?
That's the one thing that's a threat to them. It really is.
Well, I I had members of my family called, contacted, and they were harangued and harassed about me, okay? And of course, most people in my family are pretty straight shooters, and they stood up to the government, okay? Now most of them are dead, strangely enough. Most members of my family are dead. When they stood up to the government, this is what happens. Virtually all the people that stood up to the government to defend me are now dead, all right? So yes, there is a problem with all of this, but in the meantime, I'm dealing in the here and now, and yes, we have a very dangerous situation because we have somebody who's thoroughly crazy, by the way, Kim Jong-un, who just launched another rocket, okay? What, yesterday? All right, that one went even further, and I've got news for you folks. They have all the knowledge and wherewithal to put a nuclear warhead on a vehicle, delivery vehicle. And if you don't think so, check out their launch a year and a half ago when they launched from a submarine, okay, towards American shores that fell 18 and a half miles, okay, offshore, 1/2 mile over the international border, okay. They can deliver a nuclear warhead at will, all right? They have them, they can deliver them, okay? And we have a very dangerous situation with a president, okay, who's being run by an organized crime syndicate, and we've got a thoroughly determined organized crime family called the Bush family, determined to have him removed, okay? We're looking at an organized crime fight right now, okay? It's just like the Godfather series, okay? Who can knock off who, all right? That's what we have here, and that's why we're living in extremely dangerous times. Extremely dangerous.
Well, at least we have a show every week now, so we'll be able to line everything up properly. I can't thank you enough, Greg, though. It's been a pleasure, and we'll talk next week.
Okay, absolutely. And make sure we get this out because there is a schedule for these terrorist attacks to be running, all right? The more time we take to notify people, the more people will be killed. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
So please, thank you, and thank your listeners. Luca, it was a pleasure to be here as always, okay?
And we're going to say a special prayer for the earth because we really need it. Divine intervention, whatever you want to call it, we just have to, something's got to give because this can't go on. So we'll talk to you next week, though.
Okay.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it, Luca. Thank you so much.
Okay.